It's one thing to preach about the restored gospel of Jesus Christ, but it's quite another to preach about a restoration that is yet to come. And that's the story of Solomon Chamberlain. Solomon Chamberlain was living in New England in the 1820s. He was headed to Canada on a business trip. To get to Canada, he was taking a riverboat down the Erie Canal, and the riverboat soon approached the little town of Palmyra, New York. In his journal, he records that he felt impressed to get off, although he didn't know anybody in Palmyra and he had no business to transact in Palmyra. He followed the impression anyway, and he got off the boat. Once in town, he wandered around not knowing where to go or who to speak with. Eventually, as the day went on, he found himself 2 miles south of town. Well, the day was getting late, so he knocked on the door of a home and he asked if he could stay overnight in the house. The owner of the home invited him in, let him stay the night, and at the next morning at breakfast, the homeowner asked the question, "What do you think of Joe Smith and this gold Bible?" Solomon Chamberlain had no idea what they were talking about. He started to ask some questions, and the homeowner didn't know the answers. So he said, "If you'll continue on this road another mile south, you'll come to the Smith family farm. They'll be able to answer your questions for you." Well, Solomon did just that. He walked the 1 mile, he knocked on the door of the little log home at the Smith family farm, and Hiram Smith answered the door. Without even introducing himself, Solomon Chamberlain simply said to Hiram, "Does this household believe in revelations and visions?" I can't imagine Hiram's surprise, but of course he let Solomon in. For the next 2 days, he would teach Solomon all the events of the restoration and testify of his little brother, Joseph's prophetic calling. Now, at this time, Joseph was living in Harmony, Pennsylvania. Solomon was getting very interested, and he was starting to have a testimony of the things that Hiram was teaching him. Hiram invited him to go into town to E.B. Grandin's print shop, where the Book of Mormon was currently being published. Now, they had ordered 5,000 books of Mormon, and the way it works is they would put 16 pages on the press and create those 16 pages 5,000 times. So page 1 through 16 was printed 5,000 times, page 17 through 32 5,000 times. Eventually they'd be able to compile everything together and have your 5,000 completed books. Well, at this point in the story, E.B. Grandin is up to page 64. He asks Solomon asks Grandin if he can borrow the first 64 pages of the Book of Mormon and read them and study them. He was so excited. E.B. Grandin agreed, and he said, "You can have them as long as you bring them back by the time we're finished with the publication so that we can insert it and have a completed set of books here." Of course, Solomon Chamberlain agreed to it, and he left. He read those 64 pages. He gained a testimony that they and the rest of the Book of Mormon would be true. He had a testimony now of the divine prophetic calling of the prophet Joseph Smith. He took those 64 pages and he started to preach that a restoration of the gospel of Jesus Christ was taking place. He went to his family, his friends, his business associates, even strangers on the street all throughout New England, preaching that a restoration was taking place and imploring them to prepare for the restoration which is taking place and that they would soon learn about. Solomon Chamberlain was a great missionary. Preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ was coming, preparing a people to accept it. He had been not called to serve. He just found an opportunity to help gather Israel, to teach others the things that he was learning, and to invite them to do the same. Solomon Chamberlain, one of the great missionaries of the Restoration.
For more videos about our church history, make sure to subscribe.